Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Wow, it is Tuesday, and this is a Wow, It's Tuesday special that is being broadcast live on June, the 8th of June, 2021. And you may be watching it later in the month. You may be watching it at night. You may be watching it in the afternoon on Channel 15 or so. But again, we're doing a Gay Pride Month special, and I've got some great guests for you today. You know, it's really important. We had a wonderful ceremony this first week in June when the mayor allowed us to fly the flag, the Gay Progress flag, which you see behind me, at City Hall and on the green. And it was a wonderful ceremony that you can go to Facebook and see. I really was impressed. I was inspired, and I was very moved by that ceremony and the number of young people that attended. And I am thrilled that we got such great response from last week's episode that you may have seen already, and it will be on throughout the month, so you'll have a chance if you haven't. But I've got some great guests. Some of them are returning, as you see. My spouse, James, is here. There he is. Yeah, he's waving. And down below, believe it or not, the master of the universe. He's sitting in a car, actually. Right, Dennis Akins? Where are you?
Morning. How are you?
Good, good. You're sitting in a car driving from where to where?
We are on our way to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. You can see my husband Michael driving the car.
There he is.
Mikey.
Yeah, keep your eye on the
Bob,
road,
he's supposed to be from an undisclosed location because, you know, undisclosed location is where it's supposed to be from.
Oh, okay. Undisclosed location. All right. Great.
I'm surprised Denny doesn't have Bluetooth. He could just be talking into the ether.
That's very, very true. But this is the modern day, and who would have ever believed I'd be talking to Dennis Akins from a car and sitting in a studio miles and miles away from him. But at any rate, we're thrilled to have Denny Akins and Michael Fournier and James Homan here. We've got some other guests coming on a little later. You'll hear all about who they are and why they're here. And I wanted to have Dennis and Michael on because they're my closest friends, my closest gay friends, I suppose you might say, or one of my closest friends. We have a variety of friends. James and I were sort of eclectic in that way. I think, like James Baldwin said, a man just can't live in one area. You have to have a diverse set of friends. You just can't live in a gay community. it's important to get these perspectives of folks from everywhere because that informs who you are and why you are and what you do. So I'm thrilled.
Hey, Bob, you know what? It makes you part of the community.
That's exactly right. And it is, well, we are part of the community.
I know,
and,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
But you say you have to have a diversity of friends. That's what makes a community.
Well, that's what makes a community is a diverse group of people. Denny, can you please tell us? Incidentally, everybody, the voice voice of God that you just heard is our producer Pete Coles, who's in the studio here.
I wish I had pipes that good. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
The voice of God is working somewhere for Xerox.
Oh no! Oh, the voice of God. Oh, thank you. Yeah, my sidekick JPEG Luca is taking the day off generously so that we can have a lot of guests this morning and discuss some important topics. So James is already identified as gender fluid last week. Was that the word that you used or the term you used last week, James?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bob, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Were you surprised by that?
No, not at all. I was. I usually think of James as just James, but it's interesting to hear him as. And when I introduce us, we're known as far and wide as the Gunkles, the gay uncles, because it's a nice word. Gunkles is a very friendly word, and I like that word a lot.
I think of James as the king of a room, more so even than you.
Well, that's true. And when James...
Yes, James, don't be surprised by that.
Yeah.
I've watched you work a room.
Yeah.
Although I'm surprised that people come to you, that you don't have to go seeking people out. You don't work a room. You just set up shop, and then people come to you.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
It must be because of my my drag.
Oh,
so,
no.
Anyway.
His
Not quite.
Yeah, no. Hey, Dennis, how do you and Michael identify?
We identify as gay males. We're both he and males. We're not. I think everyone, to a certain extent, is gender fluid, but that's not really how we identify.
Right. Well, you and I have go way back, but in fact, I knew you when you were just coming out, if that's the expression, right?
Yes, you did. Yeah, I was 26, I think, when I first met you, and 27 when I really came out. So you were right there at the at what would be a monumental piece of history for any person who was other than straight.
Yeah, and as you decided to come out, first I want to know for you when you first knew that you were gay.
I probably recognized it by the time I hit puberty, probably 10 or 11 years old. I already knew.
And what gave you that clue?
Say that again, please.
What was the clue that gave you? Yeah, we have a nice shot of your ear.
I'm sorry. I'm having trouble hearing because we're in the car, of course.
Oh, I hear you. I'll try to talk louder for you. What indicated to you that you were of the gay persuasion? That's the question that I have.
Exactly. I think I recognized even as a young
I think
man that.
Yeah.
I mean, mostly from television and from my friends, that I was interested in different aspects of things. I always sports, so it was a difficult dichotomy for me because in many respects I felt the same as everyone else, but I could already tell I was attracted to different things than they were.
And then when we met, you were beginning to really come into your own as a gay person. Is that right? Or did it take a few years once you decided to be out in public? And you weren't really out in public. What were you doing at that time? You were teaching, weren't you?
Funny. I mean, I was a school teacher. I came out of college, and I immediately went into special education. I had been a director of a camp for special children for years, and I went into education. Being a gay man in the mid 1960s, and going into education, was a little difficult. And one of my problems was that I advanced very quickly. So I was an administrator in a school system by the time I was 20, 23. I believe I was the youngest school administrator in the state of Massachusetts at the time.
Wow. I remember you were working up in Gateway or someplace.
Sorry?
You were up north in Blandford working.
Yeah, I was in the Gateway Regional School System, and Dick Sullivan was my superintendent. And I don't think it was. I think it was more pressure I put on myself, but it was difficult to be open um, at that time, even to myself. However, when I got a grant, a fellowship to go to Springfield College, so I took a leave of absence, and that's when my opening process really happened. It was a much more convenient place to share with people. I got very tired of living my life inauthentically, and I knew if I didn't become authentic, it would have psychological ramifications on me. And that's the problem I think of most people who are different. It's number one, you have to start accepting yourself. But number two, you can't really fully accept yourself until you let others see who you are and know who you are. That's the difficult part of coming out.
The idea of your reflection through someone else helps you to know who you are in a way. I mean that
That's definitely true. But also there's an honesty factor that you can accept yourself, but until you let others also know who you are, there's a piece missing, I think. And that's the coming out.
hmm was that your experience, James, as you sit there and listen to Denny's story?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I was never in.
Yeah, but you really knew at a very young age, and you made your decision to live your life authentically. I mean, you probably even didn't know what the word meant. You probably never used that word. It was more than two syllables, so you probably kept it. Did you tell your parents at that time? Did you tell the
No,
world?
my parents didn't seem interested.
I see.
They're if they knew, they never, or if they questioned, they never asked.
Yes. Yeah.
And anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I was born with an identical twin brother.
Uh-huh.
So
Did
that
he
that
have
kind of
did he have any inkling at all? Did Jack have any inkling that you were different than him?
you'd have to ask him.
Yeah.
I don't know, because he asked me to stay out of his life
Oh my God, that's another whole story.
in the
Another
mid
whole story. Yeah.
80s.
Yeah. I think that's probably more true than not in today's world or in yesterday's world, maybe less in today's world. But Denny, I wondered, in terms of your life and your family, were you silent about
Yes.
who you were? Yeah, you were. You were silent in your family. You didn't tell
Well,
your family.
I was the youngest child of five. I came from a very religious family.
Uh-huh.
We were devout Roman Catholics, Catholic high school. A lot about all of that that somewhat repressed my individuality, and I had a struggle to deal with um, who I was in face of a church and a family that thought differently about homosexuality. Um, but as I came out, I learned that, in fact, um, you can be Catholic and come from a religious family and be fully accepted. Um, I didn't realize that until I came out, which makes the process difficult. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Did
and I
did
think
Yeah, go ahead.
I would just say that I think it's very important to realize that everyone's coming out story is unique to them. I mean, when you come out, how you come out, how long it takes to come out. Uh, there's so many different factors in it, but it's really a process more than anything else. For me, I think I had a lot of depression when I was younger
Mm-hmm.
because I never realized how I could it. I never saw myself as living authentically, and that always bothered me until I actually made it happen.
I wondered that whether,
For everyone, it's so different.
yeah, yeah. I, for me,
Say that again, please.
for me, I didn't really come out at home until, oh my God, in my 50s or 60s, maybe. As you know, I'm a huge age of 76, but very much later in life for me with my family. However, the world, my world, my teaching world, my theater world knew totally, and it was the strange secret that we all kept from my folks for some reason. And I think I remember when I joined the theater group, perhaps at Westfield Women's Club. Before I went to New York, etc., I started my career at Westfield Women's Club. And I remember thinking, and I don't know if you had this thought yourself, because that's where we met, but I remember thinking, there are going to be people like me in that world, and I am going to somehow be able to be free within that world. And my situation was really enhanced by the fact that I was, surrounded by a lot of folks who were leading gay lifestyles and were very open about it and were partnered, et cetera, et cetera. Did you find that same thing?
Well, I did, and I didn't expect that, because I really didn't. I didn't go into theater. I was actually bringing a female friend to try out, and got coaxed into trying out, and we happened to get roles.
Yes. Yeah. And you turned down. Here's a story for the camera. You turned down that role, and I got to play that role. They called me and they said, "Would you want to play this role?" First, they had told me that I was going to play the second lead, and then I was put back in. Yeah, and I was turned. In my mind, I said, "Oh my God, I'm not the lead. What are you talking about? I play the leads." And so I accepted the second lead. And then I got to play the first lead because you graciously stepped out, and then you stole the damn show from me, and got all the reviews.
I got the best reviews of my life in that show.
That's right. Well, and so during that show, you really started to develop your community. Is that correct? Your gay community.
Yes, I really did. I've always had, as you know, Bob, I always had a myriad of interests.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I was a school administrator.
We don't call you the master of the universe for nothing, man.
I had a toy company that I had started with a friend of mine. We made and sold homemade toys for children. I was always active in sports. I was a tournament tennis player in those years. Like so many people, I had a lot of interests, and every group knew me a little differently. It wasn't until I met that group that I could identify who my long-term self was going to be, and then represent myself to all those other people, which is not easy.
No, that is not easy. I remember even when I was coming back, we were moving here, James and I were moving, and I was coming back to Springfield, and I wasn't, this was 20 years ago, believe it or not, and I was not out to my family, my extended family, not my extended, my cousins, etc., as well as my dentist. And I remember wanting to make an appointment for James and having to tell Tony that indeed I was coming in, and James, my partner, was looking for a dentist, and I was glad to introduce him to Tony. I was really flummoxed by the fact that no one seemed to bat an eye, and they took a breath and went on, almost as if they had been speaking behind my back about who I was or how I presented. And I suppose to be a man of a certain age, whatever that certain means, and not married, and in New York City and in theater, they put it all together, which, strangely enough, is not the case for many folks. You can be in theater, single, and in New York City, and be as straight as can be. And I can name lists of, it's that stereotype. However, the stereotype fit in this case. There is some truth to some stereotypes.
That's a dilemma that anyone who's different faces, is that you become aware of this, of not just the stereotyping, but also the stigma that is attached to a label. And in fact, you, Bob, and I, and James all know that none of us fit these stereotype perfectly. That's the thing about stereotypes. You know how different you are from them, but everyone else is going to probably see you, initially anyways, as the stereotype once you self-identify. Um, and then you could carry that stigma a while.
Oh,
But
God,
that's
yeah.
coming out. For myself, I was so uncomfortable living inauthentically and actually feeling like I was lying all the time, that I made, once I did come out, I made a vow to myself that I would never work for anyone without telling them who I am again. Because being in education and being somewhat in politics, it was very easy to not identify. But I never wanted to have to represent somebody who might feel terribly differently about the community, the gay community that I. So it was
Yeah.
important for me to let them know who I was.
Yeah, that's, oh God, we have the sound. Is there a window open or something in your car there, Denny? We are hearing,
No, Bob,
No.
he just got into a better cell area and he's got more bandwidth.
oh, he's got more bandwidth. Okay, gotcha. So that background noise,
Sorry.
we have a background noise. That's traffic from somewhere undisclosed.
Bob, that's road noise in a car.
Oh, that's noise. That's the regular noise.
It's called
in the car.
road noise in a car.
Road noise in a car.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, hey, I wondered, James, as you heard Denny's story, the idea of theater as being a stable environment from which you could be yourself and learn about yourself. Did you feel that way as well? I mean, you went into dancing and into theater, but initially you were going to be a doctor or a physicist or something, I think, right?
No, a physical therapist.
Oh, I knew it was something to do. Well, see, I got part of that right. Yes, you were going to be a physical therapist. So, but then you got into theater. Was it a cushion for you in a way?
A cushion. Theater was the girl in front of me in algebra class in sophomore year was in a musical that I saw at the Little Theater production in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And I went back and saw it 3 times. And they were having such fun. So I complimented her on her performance, and I was, et cetera, et cetera. She had the most beautiful long brown hair. Anyway, and she said, well, next year I'll bring you to the audition. So she brought me to the audition the next January for a play that took place in July and August, I think. Anyway, so there was just, anyway, and I had no idea what to expect. So this elderly choreographer that they imported from Indiana asked if anyone could do a cartwheel. So I said, yes, I could do a cartwheel. And I did a cartwheel. And then he said, can you do a one-handed cartwheel? And I said, I'd never done a one-handed cartwheel. So he taught me how to do a one-handed cartwheel. And I did a one-handed cartwheel.
Well, okay.
And
so you get into this theater.
Right. And then I had to sing a song, and suddenly I was cast in a production of My Fair Lady.
Right. Now
as
you're
a
in
bus-
this. Now you're in this in terms of you're feeling a cushion in terms of surrounded by perhaps creative folks who may or may not have been gay. I mean, like, did you present
Well,
at that time?
Not only were they creative, but they were accustomed to playing other than who they were. So they were actors. They had, I think I think when you're trained as an actor to absorb and to change and become something other than what you are, I think there's an attraction to that, because not many of us grow up being comfortable with who we are,
Uh-huh.
and whatever that would be. So I would I loved it. I just loved it, and they loved me. That was the curious thing. I seem to have talent that I never recognized
Right.
I had.
Right.
It wasn't just my one-handed cartwheel. Oh no.
Well,
Anyway,
he could sing and he could dance. As you were talking, I was thinking that what we do as gay folks sometime, and I wonder if this is your experience, is you are constantly looking at the other person for some kind of reaction. I mean, it makes you very much aware of who the other person is, what their reaction is. If indeed you go into territory that is alien, when, for instance, people, you go to a family party and everybody's talking about your cousin Jack, who's just found the girl of his dreams and is going to be married, et cetera, et cetera. And then you hear the age-old question in families of gay folks. When are you going to get married, Bob? Who are you dating, et cetera, et cetera. And suddenly the world crashes in front of your eyes and you have to come up with an answer that is authentic and yet at the same time perhaps put you behind a curtain or whatever. For me, that was terrible. And I would be making up these stories, or I would be changing he to she. And it made me a better actor, I think, because I always was watching the other person and their reaction to me. I don't know if that fits either of your experiences, but Denny, what do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot of truth to that, and I think there's situations of which you speak that are even more difficult, and that's when someone in the family may refer to another family member that who may not be there as either gay or are using a worse word, and how you react to that. It's like, none of us, I don't think. James, for example, speaks of his never being in, but I'd be interested in how he would have reacted if someone in his family talked about, the fag that was next door or something like that. I mean, that's how what makes all this so difficult. Because once you defend somebody, because that's who you are also, um, you're self-identifying, and most of us were not able to do that at a young age. It
Yeah.
was just too much pressure.
Strangely enough, there's a term in psychological field for what happens is you internalize homophobia, and here we are, gay men who have probably. I don't necessarily think James does, but I certainly do. I can readily admit that there have been times in my life that I was acting as if I was homophobic. That fear of who you are, that fear of I am a gay man, and therefore I have to defend myself against that, and actually go the other route. Ye gods, the most inauthentic thing that we can do is to laugh at another gay person, or to make fun of another gay person, or to criticize or judge.
Hey, Bob, you want to hear something really weird?
Yes?
I mean, you guys know that I didn't date or really get married till I was well into my 30s. So my own family thought I might be gay as well, and I wasn't. But also when around the house, when, we had parties and whatnot, when my parents were gone on the weekends, when I heard somebody use that word that Denny used a few minutes ago, I went, you can't use that word. It's not right. Like, along with a couple other choice words that people used. So I don't know if people thought I might have been gay because of that, but at that time I was more interested in my career. I was more interested in becoming a TV guy.
Yeah.
That
Peter,
occupied my time.
Did you was there a certain fear? Did you have to allay that fear? Was there a, hey, wait a minute, I'm not gay. Oh no. Before you start to think that
I
not
didn't
gay,
care what people thought.
you didn't have that moment. A lot of folks do that.
Right.
They become.
But I guarantee my mother, I think, has told me this once after a few glasses of wine.
Yeah.
She wasn't sure if I was gay for the longest time. She wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Because I didn't date in high school. I didn't date in college. I didn't meet my wife till I was well into my 30s. So there was that question mark in her head.
Of course.
She wasn't mad or upset or anything about it. She was just like, well, is he ever going to tell us? I think that was her only fear, is he ever going to tell us?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
One way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she I think she was happy with wherever I was at.
Well, don't you? And we can say this, I mean, because it's probably the truth. Although today I would never want to change who I am.
Right.
Ever. But there may have been moments, I don't know about you, Denny or James, but James, I know the answer is no. I unequivocally no to this question, probably. That there may have been times that I said, I wish I were straight. Or when somebody assumed that I was straight.
But why would you deny who you are, Bob? I'm a geek.
Well, of course, and
you know what I mean. I'm perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, but Peter, the gay experience is such that society is saying something, and you are experiencing as a younger person who you are, and there's not a match. And it is a very, very tenuous thing. The straight person growing up has a different experience than the gay person, and that is not to invalidate that experience.
Other people are tormented as well, because I was fat when I was a kid, and I still am fat, and I know people give me sideways glances to this day.
Oh.
So there are other forms of discrimination that are out there as well.
Absolutely.
And I basically said, you know what? It's their loss. This is the way I look at it. It's their loss if they don't want to get to know me.
Yeah, Denny has something to say here. I can see him biting at the bit.
What I want to emphasize is that when you understand as a young person that you are gay, you go home from wherever you are during the day, with a family that you're vastly different from. There's no one necessarily in your family that identifies the same way as you do. So there's an innate loneliness that occurs because you're not just different from the world, you're different from your own people. I had a discussion with a very close African American friend of mine who, for a while we were like brothers, and he said to me one time that he had a hard time with the gay community moaning about their discrimination against them compared to what his fellow people went through. And I didn't disagree with that, but what I did disagree with, I said to him that, the one difference between us is that when you went home at the end of the day, you were just like everyone in your family. And I was completely different from everyone in my family. And that's just a loneliness that gay people experience that many others do not.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
I had a buffer because I had an identical twin brother who played sports and was athletic. I was the academic twin and the fatter twin, and he was the athletic twin. So he would get into all these clubs and teams and things like that I wasn't particularly interested in. But I also didn't feel that my family was particularly interested in me. I never got, I was never questioned. I was never, so I guess I was the faggot little twin, but, and I was almost knifed to death in Georgetown once. I went to visit a friend in college, and this guy, we were at a bar drinking, and this guy walked up to me and pulled a knife and said, I'm going to meet you. I'm going to take care of you. in the parking lot. So I guess I exuded something that he disliked. And, so.
Oh, well, that's interesting, James, because in junior high school, the recess period was really something else. I mean, you add glasses and acne to someone who's gay, and you're immediately a little bit more different and more susceptible. And I used to get jostled and beaten up, or I don't want to use the word beaten up, but the bullied is the word. Bullied until I was saved by the guy who lived next door, who was the school. He was the school jock, and he protected me totally after that. But that fear that I had of, as I was coming into my own as to who I was, other people saying, "Oh, I remember my best friend." And when we're best friends all over the place in grammar school. We go to Cathedral High School, and at lunchtime one day, he points out to all the guys at the table, "Look at Bob's hand." And I was holding my hand in a sort of limp position, and he went like this, and that was the beginning of my feeling uncomfortable at Cathedral, which was terrible. I don't know. Hey, before we look at this, oh my, we've got 3 wonderful women right below us. Look at this.
Hi, girlfriends.
Oh my.
Good morning.
Rana Lytel, who has more names or more words after her name or her and in her title. She's at Westfield State University. Rana Lytel, who was so great on last week's program. Rana, I love you so much. I gotta say, and you were so terrific at the flag raising. I was so proud of you, honest to God. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
How are things, Rana? I got you up early again today.
You did. You got me up early again today. It's good. I was gonna be here earlier, but my girl, my puppy girl, is having a phantom pregnancy, so she wakes us up at weird hours of the nights.
Wow.
Oh my word. That's another whole program. Phantom
That is
pregnancies in
program.
dogs. And look at we have some friends, who are sitting next to you. We have Kathy Bradford. Kathy is a fellow member of the Westfield State community. Kathy, introduce who you are with, and please tell us how you identify. As we have been talking about identification, and we love to get our experiences as gay men are experiences as gay men. Your experiences as gay women may be totally different than ours. There may be some similarities. So we'd love to hear your stories and et cetera. But Kathleen, I am not ever supposed to call her that. I have been trying my best not to call her that for the last 5 months since I found out, Kathleen, you're not supposed to be called Kathleen. So her name is Kathy, and that's it. That leaning part is out the window from now on. Kathy.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
First of all, this is my beautiful wife, Kelly. And we've been together 17 years. So that's a long time. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm sure it's not as long as lots of other people, but it's really long for both of us in such a good way. I met Kelly. I identify as a gay woman. And Kelly? Same, gay woman. And I'm happy to be part of the family.
Yeah.
And we're all married.
We are all married. You're looking at married folks. How many years for us, James? I put it to you because I'm afraid I'm going to get it wrong.
We met in 2000, Bob. We were married in 2004.
2004. So this is our 17th year, folks, of being married
together.
As well.
Yeah.
Together, we met in 2000, so that's 21 years that we have known one another. Denny, Look at, you're letting him into the picture there just a wee bit. He's the driver. Michael, you
Hi,
want to...
Mikey.
Does Michael have a voice?
Yes,
my
but let him
beautiful-
concentrate on the road, Bob.
Oh, yes, yeah.
We celebrated our 10th anniversary of being together, but we were married this past year during the pandemic.
Wowee. Honest to God, that's so wonderful. And Rana, how about yourself?
Been married. This will be our 6th year coming October.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And how many years were you together prior to that?
I think 2 or 3 years prior to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we had dated like when my wife first got here. She's a professor, and we tried dating that first time that she got here, and I was like, yeah, no, okay. And then we reconnected. It was a beautiful thing.
Interesting. For you, whatever possessed all of us to join the masses in the state of matrimony? I mean, it's always a decision there involved. And I think for gay and lesbian, bisexual and transgendered folks, there's always a discussion around that. Do we or don't we follow the crowd? What do you think, Kathy?
I like Kelly's.
You know, for a long time, Kathy and I talked about getting married or not, and I had a really hard time. Wanting to be part of a situation that didn't want me to be part of it. Situation's not the right word, but what is the word I'm thinking?
Institution.
Institution, yeah. I had a really difficult time wanting to be part of an institution that didn't want me to be part of that institution. But I think that the pros outweigh the cons of that, meaning, like, God forbid something happened to one of us and the other one was denied the ability to see them or participate in making decisions. And I don't know, since I got married, it was like dating, but now it's better, you know? So it just makes everything better. And now that I think that since, you know, the Supreme Court decision and everything, and we're nowhere near where we should be, but we're making strides, so I can invest more time into that institution. And I'm really happy in my life. So I think we made the right choice.
Yeah.
I agree that there is a difference once you're married. It feels different.
Totally
It's hard
different.
to describe, but it does feel different, you know?
James,
James, I think that feeling is actually universal.
Oh, I
It's
hope
a,
so.
It's a different relationship, whether you're straight or gay.
You say that word. That commitment is the word. Commitment
absolutely.
is very difficult.
Yeah.
I think James, Kelly mentioned something that you had experience with your your first husband, or Harold. Explain, when he died, what happened to you in terms of the government, or well, go ahead.
Yes. Marriage, people who don't understand our movement think frequently that we're arguing for special rights. That's not the case. We're arguing for equal rights. And one difference that I had to deal with when Harold died, Harold was my partner of almost 15 years, and he died at the age of 48 of a brain tumor. We were monogamous, HIV negative. This is New York City, and we were domestic partners, which was allowed in New York City. But being domestic partners, he made me the beneficiary of everything at work, of his investments at work, et cetera, et cetera. The year that he died in 1999, I had to have my taxes redone because we weren't married. The federal and state laws required that I pay tax on the inheritance that I had, been granted, but through Harold's death. So I had to pay $26,000 more in taxes on the amount of money that he bequeathed to me. And that's a difference that most people don't recognize. There are about, I think, well, in New York City, there were about 37 different laws or statutes like that that made marriage different from domestic partnership. And while I was allowed in the hospital rooms, and while I was treated as a spouse by the medical professionals that we dealt with over 14 months, I was quite surprised to recognize the tax differential here. So while people think we might be fighting for special rights, I did not find that to be the case at all.
Yeah.
I wanted, equal rights.
Yeah.
For
Rana,
gay
yeah.
people.
Those rights are long in coming, and we don't want to lose what we have, and I think that's really important. Rana, for you and your spouse, did you have a discussion, and why marriage for you?
Well, I had been averse to getting married for a very long time. I was like, if I can't get married in every state, if my union will not be recognized, I am not doing it.
Yes.
And my wife, who had been married previously, she was like, I just feel that this is the way that we symbolize to the world that we are one. And then I was like, no, but if yes, I'm very happy in my little New England bubble. I can go to New York. I'm fine. I'm good. We can travel to the family in California. We're good. And she really wanted to get married. And I said, oh, fine. Over a burger. I said, fine. In the kitchen.
Feed me, I'll do anything.
And then that June, 6 years ago, the Supreme Court said it was legal across the land. And I said, curses. All right, fine. I guess I had to be serious about planning this wedding, because she wanted to get married. We were engaged in May and she wanted to get married in October.
Yeah.
And I was like, no one gets married in 7 months. The heck's wrong with you?
Yeah. Oh, Kathy got.
Oh, we did it.
Kathy and Kelly did.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we did. And I had for the longest time just been like, if my union is not going to be respected in every state in the union, then I'm not doing it. I'm not going to struggle. I'm a queer woman of color. There's so many things that happen when I walk into a medical office with previous partners. And so I had just known that, if I can't have all the rights and responsibilities, then I'm not going to do it. And then that June 26, 2015, I was trying to look up my brain. My brain's not good at 6:48 in the morning. I'm still drinking my coffee. So I was looking up the Supreme Court case.
Yes.
Because one of the reasons why the Supreme Court case came up is one of the women of that case was being dinged by the federal government for having her partner bequeath to her all of her assets. And so, I was like, no. But then when June 26, 2015, they said yes, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, fine, I get married.
Yeah, we cannot. James and I got married on June 26th. Not that year. It was a couple of years later, but 1 year later, James? 2 years later.
Yeah, 2004.
Yeah. But both, it's interesting. You both had ceremonies. The women had wonderful big ceremonies. Both of us, Denny and Michael and James and I, had very tiny, minuscule ceremony. And Denny, why did
we got married?
Yeah,
we got married in our largest fireplace.
That's right.
in
Not
our
inside
home.
not inside the fireplace. Although,
Well, we stood on the fireplace,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It
and
was the largest of the 4
we put
fireplaces
pictures of all of our friends behind us because
on the
we thought,
mantle.
yeah. But we got married, and then and Denny and our friend Happy Daly, Mary Daly, were our great maid of honor and best man, and we couldn't. And Orlando Izaza, this wonderful man from Holyoke community, married us, and we used the vows of Tink Cardigan and Kate, her spouse, and changed them just a wee bit. Denny, you had a similar kind of experience. First the why, and then the where and how.
Well, Mike and I had been so busy being happy, we never really thought about getting married, to be very honest with you. It was 10, we were almost together 10 years. Um, and I don't necessarily think either one of us had marriage as our top priority. We were busy living our lives and being happy. What was odd is that everyone assumed, all of our friends, particularly our straight friends, of which we have a multitude, thought we were married all this time. Mike proposed to me under the Christmas tree a year ago Christmas, and of course I accepted. We had talked about getting married many times.
As your friends had. We all had talked about you and Michael getting married. When the heck are they going to tie the knot? They're so perfect for one another.
Well, we have been living our lives as if we were married. And to many gay people, I think, I worked actively for same-sex marriage. I worked with Mass Equality.
Right.
For the Massachusetts organization that helped push for gay marriage. For myself, and I think for Michael, I think I can speak for both of us, it wasn't necessarily something that we had to have. We had it all anyways. I think as we got older, we saw so many. We were building a life that was so combined. It just didn't make sense not to be married anymore.
Yeah.
And it was a practical thing more than anything else. The pandemic, of course, dictated that we couldn't have a larger wedding. We always planned to have a large reception with our friends, but we didn't evaluate. We didn't know that the pandemic would last as long as it did. So Mike and I had been vacationing for years with some of our female friends from the Washington area and New York in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. And we were fortunate enough to be able to look and eventually purchase a home down in Delaware. And so we chose to get married down in Rehoboth Beach. And
show the ring.
Denny, I was hoping.
Show the ring. I want to see the ring. I mean, who wouldn't marry a man who gave you a ring like this? It's so beautiful. They have the most beautiful rings.
My diamonds are. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah. Look at it. It's got diamonds in it. Oh, my God. Well, if we're doing that. All right. I got a $35 silver band here only because. No, that's the truth. This is my fourth or so. So,
Bob, James, yeah, exactly. I was going to say that's smart, James, because he's going to lose them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The ring that Bob gave me for our wedding day, what he sent away from Ireland. It was an Irish ring with the Irish knot design all the way around.
Yeah, Claddagh ring.
Yeah. So I wore that, but it gave me crotch rock.
Oh, for God's sakes, you weren't wearing it there.
And I know that's what friends said. Well, stop wearing it there. And I said, no, on my finger. I reacted to it because there was a lot of nickel in the silver. And so I reacted to it in my whole hand.
And since then, folks.
Bob, so you buy sterling silver.
Yeah, well, he's been wanting this.
No, darling, platinum.
Platinum solitaire.
That's big. That's big bucks, Bob.
Will everyone send
Bob,
in
we need
a
to put you
dollar
back
or two?
to work.
Yes, exactly right. Hey, I wonder, as we look at that marriage Mr. and Mrs. How do you introduce your spouse? Yeah, Rana introduces your spouse as, what's her name, so that we give her some credit here? Rana?
I introduce her as my wife, Dr. Treandria Russworm. She's still paying for that PhD, so I like to use the title as much as humanly possible.
You're married a doctor. Your family must be thrilled.
So Jewish, doll. So Jewish.
Yeah, but it's a PhD, not an MD. So
Yeah. Hey, Kathy and Kelly. How do you introduce each other? Is it wife and wife?
Yep. Yeah, all the time. And we do get all the time, and we do get the sort of a look every once in a while. Or I will, if she's not there, I will say my wife and I will be there, or and we always get the sort of a double take.
Oh yeah.
Because first of all, I know that people don't assume that I am gay. And so that's just the whole.
They definitely do assume that I am.
And they definitely assume that of her. So we go through that.
I usually say my better 3/4.
Yeah. Oh, so I always have that experience. Have you had this experience? Somebody calling you on the phone and wanting to speak to the lady of the house, or your wife? And
What
I
did
say,
you say, Bob? Did you say speaking?
Yes, exactly right. I say, you're speaking to him. And I try to, at every time I'm at a new office, a doctor's office, let's say, or someplace, and we're filling out forms, and they'll say to me, your wife's name? And I'll say, I don't have a wife. But you said that you were married. I said, madam, I am a gay man, and you should rephrase the question to be more inclusive. And we have to work on forms for that, because it makes people not separate, etc. Have you guys had that experience where there's that double take?
That's why I prefer spouse.
Kathy?
I prefer the term spouse.
Yeah.
Because it's gender neutral, you know.
Both James
so this
and
is my spouse. Right.
I'm having knee surgery on Monday and went to a new doctor, and their form is completely up to date. Like it is. I was so proud. I was like, whoa, I picked a great doctor. They asked, they had a whole section on identity, pronouns, your spouse.
Wow.
I was completely impressed. And
Good
so
for you.
I've had all kinds of reactions, but that's my most recent.
Yeah. Dennis, you know that the field real well. Tell us. And in terms of your experience when they, here you come in, you look like Felix Unger's partner, Oscar Madison. Oscar Madison walks in the room, and that's Dennis, really, everybody. And they then ask you for your wife's name.
Yeah, that happens. First of all, I had just as many occurrences when many people know my mother lived to be 103, and I would take her to her medical appointments, and they all thought I was her husband. So that as well. But what I found, yes, of course, it happened to me all the time, and it continues to happen. But I find that I try to be very gentle about how I respond to that, because I'm finding that people really don't mean, they really want to learn and improve. I think we've come a long way since the AIDS epidemic. I think that changed a lot of minds, but more importantly, I think it changed a lot of hearts. So my experience is that I tend to be very gentle with people and just say, well, I have a husband, and the reactions are very positive for the most part. But I don't care if I'm talking to a man or a woman. Most of my interactions on those type of errors have been very positive. And of course, in Westfield, everyone knows us. It's when we travel outside of Westfield that this happens. And that happens all the time to me. People just assume I have a wife and family, and it's no longer awkward for me to say, no, I'm lucky enough to have a husband. That's how I usually say it.
And that's that validation, your own self validation, your growth as a person of identity, a person of difference, your person who is integrated. I mean, that's what integrity means. What look at this, we're being joined by Mary Beth Berrien and Christopher Clark. These are folks from our last series of programs. Hey, do you think we should would you guys like a break? Kelly, I know you're a school teacher, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Is this the last week of school?
5.5 days, not that I'm counting.
Pardon?
5.5 days. Yeah. Well,
how many days in counting?
5.5 days.
5.5 days. Wow. And you teach, what is the subject that you teach?
I teach 7th and 8th grade math this year.
And are you having to leave us soon? I don't want to kick you out because you're such an addition.
I'm probably going to leave in a few minutes. I've got to, get ready to sit in the heat, but only for a half day, which is really awesome. And go hang out with kids, teach and hang out, and enjoy the last few days with these guys that I've got.
Gotcha. Don't come to tech. We're sweating here in the studio. It's like 85.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's dreadful. It's dreadful.
I can walk here. It's very close.
We're in lower campus, so it's even hot down here.
Yeah. Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris Clark is joining us from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Mary Beth is joining us. Hi. And Mary Beth is joining us from Westfield. I wondered, we're going to talk to you in 1 second, but while I've got Kelly, I wondered your identity with your students. How does that work?
I say things like, my wife likes you way more than I do, like when I give them treats, and don't tell the school nurse, because Kathy's always like, oh, let's get these for your kids. Let's do this for your kids. Not that I don't think about my students. Obviously, I think about them all the time and I love them. But I always say my wife. And I've had a few funny responses, like, but you're a woman, from a 12-year-old. I'm like, yep. And I've never had any negative interactions with kids or staff or parents. I decorate my room with things that are, I have like for instance, a Matthew Shepard poster. I've got pride flags. I've got safe space. I've got, and I've had a really awesome experience with kids who will share with me what their pronouns are, talk about, like when's Pride Month and what happens, and are you going to the flag raising? We were in the country, but I had a student who was mine from a few years ago who emailed and said, well, I see you at the flag raising later tonight, which I thought was really awesome. And I've had kids share some experiences and just feel very comfortable telling me who they are.
Yeah, and certainly the school department is okay with that. I mean, that's a...
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I have boundaries, and I make sure that we maintain those boundaries, and it's a safe space, but it's an appropriate safe space. You got to remember the kids are 12 and 13, but it is a place where they, feel comfortable. And I work on a team with some really fabulous people who, some have family members who are gay, others are not, and just really are caring, awesome individuals. And we just have kids who feel really comfortable being who they are. And it is a really, really cool experience for them and for us.
Yeah. Yeah. When you were at the college, Kathy worked in a variety of situations at the college with the alumni, with the residence halls in development. I wondered, I seem to remember that you were out there, certainly in the or maybe you weren't.
Well, interestingly enough, I had a life-changing experience at a point in my career, and decided at that moment, and it happened to coincide in 2014. I started at Westfield State in 81, and I was about as deep in the closet as they come. I was married. I was
married to a man.
Not even married. I met my husband at Westfield State. We had our daughter at Westfield State. I lived on campus. And then evolution happened. And so, we co-started the Gay Straight Alliance at that time, Brian Cahalan and I as a straight woman, as an ally. And so as time went on and the realization of this is my authentic self. As that happened, I had to make some decisions, and I decided to stay in the closet. Westfield State was not a safe place at that time. The very first dance that we had police at the doors. People came from across the Northeast, but we were creating a very safe place. And so at the moment when my life changed, I said, I have to live like this. And if I can't stay at Westfield State, then I can't, then I won't. If I can't be who I am at Westfield State. So I came out of the closet with a very large bang. I said on Facebook, she said yes. And then 6 months later, we got married. And so we had so many responses. A lot of people said, we knew that, we guessed that, we thought that, we were happy for you. And a lot of people were genuinely shocked. And I thought, really? How can you be shocked? We're together all the time, So yeah, I had a mix of that. I think often that I maybe wish I knew sooner, but then I might not have met the great man that is my daughter's father. One of my best friends. He was in our wedding. He stood on Kelly's side. It was a little too much to stand on my side. And
your former husband. Wait a minute. Your former husband was in the wedding party.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
On my side.
Yep.
Yeah, we're really good friends.
And then I was the photographer and wedding planner for their wedding. Yeah. We're really best friends. So, and our daughter is fabulous. She lives in London, and I feel so happy that I can be my genuine self. And, there's not times where I think about, can I do that now or not? It just is. That's just who I am. And so it's amazing. And part of that is because of Kelly. I never would have met her if things didn't happen the way they did. And she's, pretty much the love of my life.
Pretty much.
Yeah, James always refers to me as his I'm always referred to as the second husband. And I was thinking, why not just last husband? Couldn't that be the final stop on his journey? I don't know. But hey, you bring us right to you nice.
But I got to go. It was a pleasure. Thank you guys.
Kelly Nielsen, come back Kelly. Sometime soon.
Oh, I will. This is fun.
Oh, great. Say hello to all those kids. Yes.
I'm going to Bob.
Oh, Dennis is going to leave as well.
I just want to tell everyone, first of all, I love you all. I know you all. I love you all. But I want to say before I go that we don't really think about this a lot, but we're all every one of us here is kind of a social pioneer. There is no rule book. When they pass same-sex marriage, and those of us that had partners or became spouses, there was nothing to say that we had to do it the exact same way as straight couples or not. So we're still in the process of pioneering what is going to be the next level of gay relationships or LGBT relationships. It's why I'm so glad I have got to know Chris Clark, because it's so important for generational people to speak with each other. I've learned so much from Chris as a younger gay man, and we have to remember that this is an evolving process. Fortunately, gay marriages are doing very well in America, as most of us know.
The world didn't collapse.
The world did not collapse, and people are more and more. No one's as surprised as they were a few years ago, and it keeps getting better all the time. But I want to say thank you, Bob, for having this show, and Peter Coles for producing.
Well, Denny,
all of you want to say quick.
Denny.
Yes, Mike.
Michael.
Hi, Mike.
Michael,
Mikey.
Could he just
Dennis,
say one word so that we know that he...
No, he's like E.F. Hutton. We're going to let him sit for a little bit.
Oh, all righty.
No, I wanted to ask Dennis if you will be sending announcements for a throuple. For your throuple.
What does that mean, thruffle?
That's the next generation of gay relationship.
Yeah, possibly. Not everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Denny. Drive safely, guys.
Bye, Denny.
Bye, Michael. Thank you for driving. Bye-bye. Hey, everyone. There's Chris Clark, who we just were mentioning, and Denny is still there, and below Chris is
Mary Beth.
Mary Beth Berrien. Mary Beth and Chris. Mary Beth, you fit into the conversation around what Kathy was referring to, and Kelly was referring to, around safe spaces for young folks, and at an educational environment. Explain, and how do you identify and how do you fit in here? Because it's really important for folks to understand you come from a perspective that is so wonderful. Talk to us, my friend.
So you know what? I don't even know how I identify anymore. Like I'm registered straight, I should say. I don't know if that's the way to say it. I'm heterosexual. I have a husband. That does not mean that if Britney Spears or Pink came and hit me up, I would turn them away. Do you know what I mean? So, I would be comfortable in any relationship, I think. So I don't know. But I am a teacher and I am a mother of a trans son. So I come from the mama bear aspect all around children. Like my students are my kids and my son is my child. Well, my other children too, but my son is my child too. And I'm here to protect them and I'm here to make it better for them. And this is my job. My job is to make sure that these kids growing up are safe, are comfortable, and are able to be themselves. So as a high school science teacher, I have it a little bit easier than Kelly does because she teaches math. So math doesn't really, cover gender, sexuality, and that kind of thing. Whereas in science, if you get into that kind of conversation, it's not as sticky a wicket for me. So I can make it be science and factual based versus how does this correlate to your curriculum? Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's a little bit easier. And my picture that I have for my profile picture at school is Trixie all dressed up in her tutu with her little Gay Pride Love Wins handkerchief. And the kids are like, oh, that's right, it's Gay Pride Month. So then all the kids put up their pan pride, bi pride, whatever flags behind them. A few kids did come out to me and then said, I could never do this with my parents. So
interesting.
It's still that level of unacceptance at this point. And it's really sad to me that my kids don't feel comfortable being themselves at home.
Yeah.
Because at home is the place that you should feel the most open and able to be who you are. So at least in my classroom, while they're at home, they can be who they are.
Yeah. Trixie is your dog, if folks are questioning.
Sorry,
yeah. Beautiful dog with a tutu, all dressed up for the flag raising. We ought to post a picture later on. There goes Kelly to teach. Congratulations for being the teacher of the year, as far as I'm concerned. Oh well, I think I've got to include Mary Beth in that as well.
And what about Rona?
Yeah. Now, speaking of the student of the year, he has made his coffee and his eggs or whatever. He was in the kitchen. He's moving now to some undisclosed location. Where are you going, Chris?
I'm going to the living room.
Oh,
I'm getting set up.
Okay.
I'm running late.
Oh man, you're running late.
I want to know. This conversation seems to now be centering on children, and so I wonder, Rona and Christopher, are you at all interested in children? I mean, after 20 minutes, I break out in hives with children. So I don't have a real need to procreate.
Whereas I need every young person around me from age 1.5, maybe 1, to 27, 20. I love younger people, period. Children and whatever. So that's our difference, that we compromise. Would you answer, Rana, the question that James? Children.
For the I'm now what they call perimenopausal. So
okay.
For the longest time I did want children, but I could medically, for medical reasons, I could not have children. And so what I have developed is my students at the college.
Yes.
They are my children. I'm the oldest of 8, so I've been taking care of people younger than me for a good portion of my life.
Right.
And I have a whole slew of nieces and nephews. So we have incorporated them into our children. Plus, we have 2 Airedale Terriers who take up a lot of our time. So we love doting on our nieces and nephews. When we get back to having campus time, I'm just going to flood my college students with cupcakes and candy and macaroni and cheese and listen to all their stories and try to help them get through another year on campus, post-pandemic-ish. But yeah, my college students have become my children. My nieces and nephews are there. But so yeah, that's where we are in my family.
And Kathy's daughter is so incredible. Kathy, I don't think she needs another. Your daughter is so wonderful that you don't need any more children. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. Speak for yourself.
The truth is we do have an 11-year-old in our life. And we expect that at some point he will live with us permanently. And so we have fostered him part of the year. His mom is happily in Westfield now. They lived in Florida. And we wish her a long and healthy life, but we know that that we are the next parents of our beautiful little Turner. So we expect that will happen, and what that day will be announced just like she said yes.
Wow. Amazing. Just for a question, did you have a discussion with your daughter when you came out and you were marrying Kelly? I mean, or how did that happen?
Well, my daughter knew because when her dad and I separated, she was with me for the weekend, and then the phone rang, you know, when we had phones that were on the table, and they rang and they said where it was from. And of course they were in the village singing at right next to Stonewall. I can't think of the name of the bar, but Jeff and I used to go there all the time.
At the duplex.
The duplex.
And so it said the duplex, and Mom and Callie got in the car with me and said, Mom, I now know why you and Dad broke up. I think he's gay.
He thinks he's gay.
Yeah. And I said, I'm driving. And I said, no, honey, it's not Daddy. And she burst into tears for one stoplight on Route 20. And she said, really, Mom? And we had this whole great conversation, met up with Dad, and she's been okay with it ever since. She used to have a button on her backpack that said Ally, and everyone said, why are you wearing a pin for Allie on your backpack?
Oh, you mean like Kate and Allie or something? Yes.
Yeah, she was like, don't you know what Ally is? So yeah, she was good with it. And she's really good with having a little brother too.
Oh, man. I've got to meet Turner. You have to introduce him to me because you know how much I did not know there was a Turner in your life, and I am so thrilled.
He's really fabulous.
And he knows that he has 2 or actually 3 mommies, right?
Yes, he does. And he's at our house. As a matter of fact, this morning, I think he just went to the bus stop, but he was over tonight because his mom has some stuff in Boston. So
I love it.
So yeah.
Thrilled.
That's the next phase.
Mary Beth, in terms of your child, I got an email from somebody yesterday thanking us, all of us, for helping this woman to navigate the waters of being the mother of a gay person. And I think that it's important for us to talk about that experience. And also, I want to ask Chris, because he lives, as you see, in a house in Ann Arbor where he is surrounded by gay men. It's your dream, James, to be in a house surrounded by gay men.
That's heaven. That's heaven.
That's heaven. But let's go back to Mary Beth. Mary Beth, talk to us a little bit about being the mother of a transgendered person, and also
a bisexual daughter, and so
yes.
Just
You have a daughter who's bisexual.
I do, and it is what it is. I have never been the person that would be like, oh, you can't do that. That's not what, like, that's a choice. That's not a good choice. Because to me, it was never a choice. Like, when somebody says that to me, I'm like, oh, so when did you choose to like men? Or when did you choose to like women? And they're like, well, I've always been like that. I'm like, and I wait for them to hear the oh, if I've always been this way, but sometimes they just still don't pick it up. So I have to say, oh, so you didn't consciously choose that. So for me with my children, it was never a don't do that. It was, and I will say this, and I know I'm probably gonna get a bunch of backlash for it, but in my evolving from being Catholic to not Catholic, I think a lot of the teachings that you are taught as a religious person in the Christianity scope of it, really, you can't be gay. Being gay is bad. Sodom and Gomorrah, blah, 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 and they all throw this stuff out. And I'm like, well, you're not supposed to wear polyester and cotton either, buddy. So like, what are we going to do? You know what I mean? So like, I try to bring it back to different things where they, what are we going to do? Kill Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady because they touch the skin of an unclean animal, like they play with pigskin. So, like those are things that are in the Bible too. You can't eat shrimp, buddy. Don't eat lobsters. Like those are things. And they never have oh, that's Old Testament. I'm like, suppose what you're talking about. So I try to get them to realize that some of what they're saying and doing is not appropriate to this day and age. And it's not what it is. And I've seen that some people have had different reactions and responses to things. Like I have a neighbor who was like, what's with this Black Lives Matter sign in your house in the front yard? Like, what does that mean? Like, I'm like, you've been to my house. Is it only Black people over there? Is that all I hang out with? And he's like, no. I'm like, so there's a comma too after that. It's implied. It doesn't mean only. It means like, hey, let's pay attention to this. And I think I actually changed him across the street from you there, Chris. We had a big conversation for like 2 hours.
Wow,
the other night.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he understood.
Hi, neighbor.
Yeah, so he understood when he said, no, all lives matter. I'm like, well, you subscribe to Black Lives Matter, right? Black lives do matter also, correct? And he said, yes. I said, so when somebody says Black Lives Matter or trans lives matter or gay lives matter, just say you're right, because you already subscribed to the notion. And so he's going to do that from now on. He's not going to get all fired up about it. So I think that was, and he's older, so it's, one of those things that as a parent, as a person, as a mom, as a teacher, I'm going to educate as many as I possibly can to how to be accepting and create that safe space for everybody.
How does that work with your son? Do you have those conversations? I suppose similar.
He was outside with me. He was outside with me having the conversation with our neighbor. Yeah. But he is kind of low key. He doesn't really like to go out there and be like, hey, I'm here and let's talk about this. I'm more that advocate for him. He's more of the laid back, like, yeah, hey, it is what it is.
I am who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like I know that's not in his nature, and it absolutely is in my nature. So knowing what's going on in Westfield at this point in time, I'm going to be taking out papers to run for city council because of the whole, let's make ordinances on flags and let's make ordinances on this. And I'm like, no, it's not, it's coming out now. So yes, Chris, I'm going to do it. So,
Brava.
Oh,
Brava.
listen,
Congratulations.
you heard
That's
that.
amazing.
You heard that here first, or you heard that first.
Yeah.
Here, or is it? Wow, how do you say that?
I don't know. I just came out on the radio show that said I'm going to run for city council. So. Yeah.
Oh my God! Well, and it's important for all of us to be politically active in whatever way we choose. Sometimes you can be an ally, a political ally in a sense, and not be out there holding a flag or whatever, but you can go to the polls, you can do what you wish in order to change society or culture, and you can speak out. A person who does that is our man Chris, who was so wonderful at the flag raising. You were so great as the MC.
Bravo.
Yeah, bravo, Chris. Yeah. Tell us what it's like to be gay, out, living in a house with 5 other gay men of all different experiences, and
7.
7. Oh my God!
Oh,
7 other gay men.
Oh my gosh!
oh my God.
That's like a cruise.
Yeah.
You've got like a
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you having babies? Are you making medical history?
No.
You're increasing.
Well, they might
We
be
have,
adopt. You might
we
adopt.
we have talked about raising a child together at the house. There's some people who are really about it and having a bunch of dads for having a child with a bunch of dads. And then some people are like, absolutely not, and we're like,
Yeah.
oh, we can all take turns. Everyone can have one day of the week with the kid, and
Diaper
it'll be
duty.
a great time.
That kid
Yeah.
would grow up so loved. Oh my gosh, when you think about
Or
it.
would need a lot of therapy. I don't know which one. It would probably be a mixture of both.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a really great experience living in this house. It definitely, with any experience with sharing a house, sharing a space with so many people who you may not know, who come from all different places. We have people from all over the United States. We have some people who are not from the United States who live here as well. And so there are times when we deal with conflict and we face conflict. But it still has been just such a wonderful experience. And it's like, when I came here, it's almost as if like the house chose me. It was like I had the option. I was like, oh, I would love to live in a place like this. But the opportunity came just totally out of the blue one day. And I like canceled my housing contract with the university, and immediately, as soon as I could get out and live in this house, I took that opportunity. And it's been a wonderful.
But was it because the house was gay, or because this was a place that you felt? Well, I guess that's the same question. You felt safer in, or what was it about that so appealed to you? Personally, living with 7 people is not my idea. I'm not Snow White, believe it or not, even though I drifted, as Mae West said.
Yeah, I think definitely I never felt unsafe in my last living situation. I had 2 wonderful roommates. The main reason was I didn't have a window in my bedroom in my old place. University housing here was super weird, and they were like, we're going to build a graduate dorm, and you guys don't need windows. So that my major driver was I just needed a window in my bedroom. I did not care.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was a gay house, queer house, made it even better. Yeah, and so it was never like a factor of safety, more as like a desire for like being like, well, what is it like to live with so many people who identify as queer? Because I also at the time, I moved to Ann Arbor during the pandemic, and so my 2 roommates were like the only friends I had in Ann Arbor. I knew some other people. I actually went to high school with somebody who was going to the University of Michigan. So I had like one other person, but I was very limited on friends, and I was excited to have the opportunity to maybe make some new friends. And I think living in the gay house, I want to share is that like the best part about it has been my ability to kind of compare how I live as a gay person, how I identify as a gay person, how I carry myself as a gay person. And then I can see that reflected in other people. And I can see my own reflection in other people, but I also see the differences in how other people live their gay lifestyle or just live their regular lifestyle without the gay part attached. And it's been wonderful because there's people from all walks of life. There are some graduate students who are older. We even have a few undergraduates who live here. So you just kind of get to see people of all different lifestyles and how they live. And it's been wonderful, and how in my own personal growth, because I can kind of have some of these people as role models and kind of grow in a way that they have, or learn the experiences and lessons they've experienced.
Yeah.
Is it also multiracial?
Yes.
Racial?
Yeah. We're not just, okay. That was kind of my other concern. It was like, am I just going to live with a bunch of white dudes? And thankfully that's not the case. There's people of a lot of different ethnic and racial backgrounds, which has been, and religious backgrounds as well. It's kind of become a space of cultural exchange. Like we had like a Passover Seder one week, and then like the next week, the Ramadan began. And so we had, we had different meals. We've done like a Mexican night. We've done a drag brunch. We've done a lot of really amazing things together as a household, whether it be dinners or watching Pose or RuPaul's Drag Race on Friday nights. Friday nights are always reserved for the gays. All of my friends know it. Like, they can't bother me on Friday because I'm gonna be with my house doing something as a community. Usually watching RuPaul's Drag Race. That was like our Friday night tradition.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Is it full drag? I'm interested in the drag dinners. Do you do full drag, or do you just do chapeaus and scarves and things like that?
Everybody interprets it their own way. We had some people who spent hours preparing for, doing all the makeup, doing, getting their costumes, like their outfits together. So there was all different levels of drag representation and presentation. So it was wonderful.
Do you know who David Hodo is?
Of course not.
David Hodo is Scar from the Village People. He's the construction worker. And he used to have a drag tea on Wednesdays. And you had to wear a large picture hat. So that's all you had to do is wear a large picture hat. So you had all these guys, and he had a huge apartment on 79th Street, and you'd have to wear a large picture hat. So that was the closest to drag tees I ever got.
As you talk, I wonder what the other folks feel about the difference in 2021 gay life on campus, as opposed. Gee gods, at Holy Cross back in the 63 to 67, yeah, no way would maybe in the 80s, maybe in the 90s. I don't know if they finally have gotten with it. I mean, it's a Catholic campus, Jesuits, etc., a little bit further along than most campuses, I would assume. However, that kind of life would have been so wonderful for folks. What do you say, my friends? Who wants to speak? Kathy, you're shaking your head there. Yeah.
Well, I will only speak now because I gave you a bit of that when I talked to you about our first dance. But the truth is, when we set up the Gay Straight Alliance, you actually had to make a phone call and be interviewed before you could be told where the meeting was, because we were afraid of backlash from the community. And you might say, well, why did you think that? Well, I mean, when you set up a table and you create a Pride Week in April, and you have brochures that say, what does the Bible say about homosexuality? And there's nothing inside, because there isn't in the Bible.
Yeah.
And you have things like that, information and rainbow ribbons and all of those things. And the president of the university, heading to a barbecue, walks by without stopping to say hello to two people who have this Pride information table. It gives you a sense of what that feels like. It felt, and again, at that moment, I was the ally in sitting at that table. And I thought, it's just reinforcing why I cannot come out here. Why I can live my life off campus, but I cannot live my life on campus. I remember it was very close to turning the reins over to Rana when, for the very first time, we were having a meeting of the group, and the students were talking about who they would allow their partner to be with. If they, Mary Beth mentioned Britney Spears a little while ago. And so I said to the students, well, Brad Pitt or Angelina at the time. And they all were like, what? They were stunned because I was the ally supporting them. So it was little bits of coming out. I don't know what life as a professor was like at that time, because I was not teaching, but as an administrator, we are often, able to be let go at, without much cause, just reorganize and you let go. And so we are all much more cautious than our faculty, who I adore for their ability to be able to step out and say what they need to say.
Yeah.
So Rana might have some more perspective on that.
Yeah, Rana.
I know for many faculty, the early days at Westfield was very hard for them to come out. It was very hard. There are a few faculty members that just in their presentation, they couldn't hide who they were. But there were still to this day, there are some faculty that are not out to their students in the class. I remember walking across campus one day and students were like, "Do you think our professor is," and I'm just walking a couple of steps ahead of them and I'm just kind of like laughing to myself because it hasn't been brought up in class. There is no discussion of their personal life. And it was a difference between where this person was in their career, many more years older than me, and where I was in my career and the work I was doing on the opposite side of campus, where we were all very out and loud and making waves and stating that, the administration cannot treat our students or ourselves or the faculty and staff in these ways. But there's still, I think they're still, in their personal lives, they are very much out and about. But in their campus lives, they don't share that part of them.
Yeah.
And I have to respect my colleagues for that. They've come through stuff that, and I said to my students, they'd be like, "Well, why doesn't this one just say who they are in class?" And I said, you don't understand the life that they live to get to where they are, to the point in which that they have tenure, they've been promoted, they've gotten this far, and they still have that internal, there's certain things that you don't talk about at work. I said, you're in Mott Hall. There are queer, straight, people of color of varying religions, and Mott Hall is just an interesting little trailer. We call it the trailer. It's with love.
Yeah.
That is a home to a variety of departments and people that represent in different ways. So you can't be upset with the people on the other side of the campus who are not flying a flag. No, you just have to understand that everyone's in their own process in their own time. It's like when I tell them about their parents. Your parents did not get a manual stating this is how you're supposed to do things. You want them to do them better, but you got to give them, as long as they're not physically and emotionally harming you, you want to try and give them the benefit of the doubt. And then you have to make your decisions for yourself. We all have to make a decision as to what we want to do and how we want to present our lives in the world. And some people just aren't ready. So if you want to be out proud and loud, go for it. I'm here to support you. I'm going to stand in front of you, stand alongside of you.
But if you want to be
titles, you're going to have to explain to me.
Sure.
But we're going to do it together.
And conversely, if you want to be in and silent, that's accepted as well.
Yes.
And perhaps I think it's so important to recognize that following somebody on their journey sometimes just means being beside them as they choose not to be out in public, et cetera, et cetera. And a look even, or some kind of acknowledgement of who they are. It's okay to be silent. It's okay to be making your choice in a world that is up and down about this issue, and et cetera, et cetera. Chris, and from your perspective as a University of Michigan student, is the Michigan campus very out and alive and well?
That's a great question. When I was actually visiting the University of Michigan, like right when like the pandemic was like in the background in a far off place. It wasn't really here. We were like, oh, it's fine. It'll be over in 2 weeks. Like right before that had happened, I was able to visit the university, and I was driving down like one of the main roads in Ann Arbor that is located along where the university sits, and there's a church there, and in front of the church were all these different all these different rainbow doors, and on each door was like a different symbol of like a different religion, and I saw that and was like, oh, okay, I can be here. Like like if there's and there was like a Black Lives Matter flag, like it was like if this is like on the church, like on a church in the middle of Ann Arbor in Michigan, like I was like, I'm fine. Like this is gonna be a fine place for me. And since I've been here, the community is a little disjointed right now because gay life, at least in this college town, seems to be circles around like a few like meeting places and clubs and bars. I haven't had a chance to like really meet like any of the gay organizations because they've been online, and I'm just like, I don't have the energy for another Zoom call. But it's, from what I've seen, it seems like this community is very connected. Like I'm in like multiple group chats of people like planning their own Ann Arbor Pride events because there wasn't one specific one being put together. So it has been like, it is an extremely accepting and welcoming community. It has the same like, it has this, I have the same comfort, maybe even a greater level of comfort as I do in a place like Northampton. Like that was always, I'm sure we can talk about the Northampton another time, but it would be wonderful to have, to really bring that level of comfort to a place like Westfield. But absolutely, like, the feeling you have, of affirmation in a place like Northampton, I definitely have here as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. I wonder, as we're having a conversation today that is this is a solid 2-hour block of talking, and I think it's important, and I hope that our listeners know that we're archived on YouTube, and you can go to YouTube and find Wow, It's Tuesday, and put in 008, or what is it? 060821, which is today's date. And you'll see it right there. Wow, It's Tuesday, and it comes right up, and you can see last week's show. So you can come in and out of the program and hear the various views of our guest. It's so important to hear different views. If I were putting this together as a documentary, there would be music, we'd have visuals, etc., etc. But the voices are most important. Do you have a lot of hope for America and the LGBTQI, or a hope for the world? Somebody want to take this?
I can speak from the high school teacher perspective. The kids coming up every year are more accepting than the kids the year before. And what I mean by that is they're more aware, they're more in tune, they're more like, no, you can't be like that. Every year it gets progressively better for students to be sticking up for other students. As a high school teacher, I was like, at first I was like, oh, we have a GSA, and it was kind of on the hush hush when I was at the tech.
What is that, TSA or PSA? What's that?
GSA, Gay Straight Alliance. So the
GSA, Gay Straight Alliance. Okay, got it.
So the GSA at Westfield Tech, when I first started, was kind of like hush hush. People didn't talk about who were members when I was there in 2012. When I left in 2018, they were walking in pride with a flag, and like people were like, hey, I'm in GSA. They were wearing rainbows in school. It was more, I mean, granted, you still had those pockets of people that were like, being gay, but more than not, there were, wow, great, good for you. And at every year, like I said, it's gotten better. So I don't know how that goes up into the college level, Rona. Like if every freshman class coming in is a little bit more, and I hate to use the word woke, but more accepting, more available to the community as an ally or even as a representative, because I think people are realizing that straight heterosexual right down the middle, I like boys, I like girls, doesn't really exist. There is not one that is just, like I said, Brittany could hit me up anytime she wants to, and I'm putting it out here so in case she sees this on YouTube, I'm just saying.
I'm calling her later on in the afternoon.
Yeah,
Expect a call.
I'm serious about that. So like I think for a long time people really thought like if you were heterosexual, that's all you liked and that's all you enjoyed, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know. I think I'm missing some flavors. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think like, and I hate to say it that way. And I don't mean to make light, but coming from somewhere where I felt like maybe I might have maybe repressed some of me as a human by not saying like, wow, she's beautiful. Oh my God. Wow. And missing that part of growing up, I think was part of my growing up because of my parents being so uber Catholic. And, that was not something you talked about. And heaven forbid if you had a boyfriend or a girlfriend of a different color, let alone of the same sex. I think that might have been a huge problem.
Or faith for that matter. I mean, like there are all
I
kinds
think
of difference.
The faith thing might have been okay at my house, but definitely color and same sex would have been like one of those things. So I think that might have been something that was repressed in me. And now that I'm going through this with my son and with my daughter and, seeing the acceptance that I have for them, I think I'm starting to accept more of myself. So seriously, Britney Spears, hit me up. Like,
And I would even add to this, like, I'm gonna tout my generational pride for Generation Z, and that, like, I've said it before, but people between the ages of 18 and 24, 25 right now, 15% of them identify as LGBT under the LGBT rainbow.
Now repeat that again.
People between the ages of 18 and 25, 15% of them identify somewhere under the LGBTQ spectrum rainbow. And
wow.
that's 1 in 6. That's 1 in every 6 people. So I think that's like, it's only just going to continue to grow until we actually have like a representative, portion of the population, people who identify and are open to it. Like everybody knows a lot of people, but now it's becoming just so much more open. And I think that the generation that I'm a part of, I'm so lucky and so grateful to be, because like, it just, like, I really hope that we continue to bring all of these movements that you all have helped push and build and really push them over the hill. And that these things, these ideas that like 10 years ago even were so taboo and so quiet, and can now, like, can just one day just be like normal, like no longer will be the other and will just be. And so I'm really proud of my generation, because I think that's coming because we've just grown up around all of these different social movements.
Yeah. How wonderfully put. Kathy, hope for America.
Great hope, as long as we pay attention to who our leaders are. I think that making sure people get out and vote for the leaders that are supportive of equality for all, and Americans are American, not gay, straight, lesbian, black, white. America and Americans. I think that we have great hope. As far as every day on a day-to-day basis in a community, I have huge hope. I see it here even. A year ago, we didn't know, just over a year ago, we didn't know if we were going to even be able to get the flag up in front of City Hall. This year, we have 2 flags up in our community. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the small group that hopefully will create a larger group very soon, and be able to have more visibility in town. But I think that it's not just about us. I think it's about everyone who is part of the fabric of the tapestry of our lives. And
Kath, would you?
Yeah.
What is the name of the group so folks can look for it if they're trying to join us?
Yep. Westfield Pride Alliance, and that's the current name, and the group voted to keep that for now. But we are soon going to have meetings to flesh out what is our group, what does it mean, how is it run, that sort of thing. We want to be very inclusive. We want to have representation from everyone who wants to be there. And we want to be able to offer education, resources, opportunities, events for our community of Westfield.
Got it.
We have folks that need to be able to find someone to ask a question of. And so we'd like to be that too.
Yeah.
With that, Bob, can I announce my program?
Absolutely. I was just thinking a perfect segue into the Westfield Creative Arts is WOW's place down on Elm Street, 105 Elm Street in this Westfield. And we are thrilled to have Kathy Bradford on our board. And she is also the creative director, we might say, of Westfield Creative Arts. And you're going to have lots of different programs down there throughout the next year. You go to westfieldonweekends.com to see it. That's my little commercial. But Kathy has a program, if you're watching, and if it's beyond Thursday, check us out online and you can find other programs similar to this. But what do you got going, Kath?
So in addition to, we are the Creative Arts Center, so there'll be lots of variety of that. In this month, because it is Pride Month, we will be having a session on Thursday night at 6:30 p.m. For folks that want to come and talk about what happens, what does it feel like when someone comes out to you in your family? How does that, what's my response? How do I feel? Who's done that before? So basically a session on, so my son or daughter told me they're gay is basically what it is.
So if you have a child or a extended family person that you would like to talk to about their identification, their gender identification, their sexual identification, orientation, this is a place where you could go on Thursday night to meet other folks who may have been involved in. Am I right? Is that what you're doing?
It is. It is. There will be a small section, a small sort of learning piece, and the majority of the discussion will be people sharing their stories, sharing what happened for them, and sharing what they are anticipating happening for them, and then what some of the resources are and where they might get some questions answered. So
Wild.
I'm very excited about it and hope that you would come to the session. I will remind folks that I know the state statute regarding masks has been lifted, but currently, unless that changes at our meeting tonight, masks are required.
Or tomorrow. Yeah, the date of that is it.
Yeah.
It's what give the date so that folks know. June.
Yes, it is the 10th. June 10th, Thursday, June 10th.
At 105 Elm Street, and you can find out online. I think there's probably something online about it. On
yes, there is. But you also
Facebook.
can email us at wow.creativeartscenter@gmail.com. Sorry.
Yeah.
What time?
Yeah.
Is at 6:30 p.m., 6:30 to 8.
And allies are most welcome for that. And certainly, Mary Beth, that might be something that you might want to contribute to as well. Chris is in Ann Arbor, but he'd be a great addition to that. But next time when he moves closer or when he's here for a longer period of time. Rana, we haven't heard from you about hope.
I have to have hope. If I don't have hope, I'm not getting up in the morning. Let's be honest. I have to have hope. I have to have hope in our current, in that next generation making changes they've made. In my time at Westfield, I've been at Westfield for 17 years now, June of 2004. Wow. The young people have made so many changes to that institution.
Westfield State.
Westfield State, sorry, yes. As an undergrad at UMass, we were having meetings. We had our Pride Alliance. We had some out faculty. We had some closeted faculty. But it's just interesting when I met with Kathy and to learn the history of the Westfield State GSA, now QSA, Queer Straight Alliance, and to know what they were doing and the protocols that they had to have in place in the 90s. When I was a college student at UMass, that we didn't have to have in place. It just showed how different the locations, the colleges, institutions were. So I have to have hope. And working with college students, working with those young minds, it keeps you hopeful. You see a chance for a better future, and you're open to it, and you're willing to learn and understand that the way you did things. This generation's already figured that out. You just have to listen and be like, okay, and be open to, okay, so we have people that aren't just LGBT. We have pansexual. We have my niece came out as pansexual, and I was like, I've heard of it. Now I need to understand it fully so I can better support them. And then when I read about it, I was like, oh yeah, I'm game. Let's go for it. I love it.
Yeah.
And so that's what to work with college students, you have to see the hope. I have seen college students come to campus who, very strict family lines. They weren't out at home, but sometimes, it takes something, some of my students aren't out at home right now. So when they come back to campus, they're going to flourish and grow and become who they need to be so that their parents can go and go to Kathy's program and understand that it's okay. I always suggest finding a local P flag to my students, especially if they're worried that their parents and their grandparents may not be ready. A local P flag.
And when you say P flag, what does P flag mean?
What it meant to have a gay daughter.
Yeah, P flag is parents for what does that stand for? P flag. Oh God.
You're muted, Chris.
What is it?
Parents and friends for
The lesbian, yeah.
And gay community. They probably they've expanded, of course, but
Yes.
P flag, and you look for it online, it will help you. Rana, you have a good experience there. Now, the man to my immediate right or left, depending on what you're seeing on your screen, James, you don't have as bright a vision for this. Am I right?
Well, I am highly medicated.
So your medication helps you to live in a world that changes every day around this.
It helps me get up in the morning.
Got it. Well, I would say this, that as your partner and as an out gay man in the community who's quite out there, I suppose, do I have hope? I do have hope. I have hope that when I see commercials on television where there are representatives of the LGBTQI community, that they are in the commercials. There are some great films out there right now that speak to the experience in a different way than what we had grown when I grew up, where the gay folk, the lesbian folk were particularly the bunt of humor rather than let's discover this world. It's very hopeful for me. Sometimes in the political world, it's very difficult to watch changes happening or attempts to change a culture that is evolving. The world culture is evolving, and we don't want it to go back. And the only way for me to feel good about myself is to speak out about it, to be with others in this alliance of people who want the world to change. And I think it's a long way. I mean, we still have a long way to go. And maybe I will be here for that time when there will always be difference. But maybe identity I don't have to identify. I can identify as a human being who lives freely on this planet without a label. And I can be whoever I want to be. And that is celebrated from morning till night in my neighbors, in my politicians, in my government, in my world, my culture, my church, et cetera, et cetera. That's the important thing. I got to say, I've had a great time today, 2 hours worth of conversation. I just love these folks, everybody, and they know I love them, and I continue to learn from them, and I thank you. Look, we're going to be on we're going to be on soon. On if you tune into Channel 15 or go our archive, tell your friends about our programs. We have 4 hours of talking with great folks like this, telling their stories. Very important. I'm going to go out with.
Bye, everyone.
No, wait. Okay, I want to say, we're going to say goodbye in a second, but I want to thank you, James. I want to say that I'm going to.
So glad
no,
we had this time.
Well, actually,
together.
very true. But we are going to play Casey Musgroves. If you don't know the song, listen to the words of this song. Casey is an ally. There are not many in the country western field or the country field who are gay artists who are out. Casey Musgroves is an ally, and she wrote this song called Follow Your Arrow. I'm going to play it as we go out. I thank you all for listening. I thank you for being my friends. I look forward to our next our Gay Pride Alliance meeting. And get out there and become an ally, everyone. And big kisses and hugs to all of you. And see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
You.
Bye.
If you save yourself from marriage, you're a bore. If you don't save yourself from marriage, you're a horrible person. If you won't have a drink, then you're a prude. But they'll call you a drunk as soon as you down the first one. If you can't lose the weight, then you're just fat. But if you lose too much, then you're on crack. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So you might as well just do whatever you want. So make lots of noise, kiss lots of boys, or kiss lots of girls if that's something you're into. When the straight and narrow gets a little too straight, roll up the joint or don't. Just follow your arrow wherever it points at. Follow your arrow wherever it points. If you don't go to church, you'll go to hell. If you're the first one on the front row, you're a self-righteous son of a can't win for losing. You'll just disappoint 'em. Just 'cause you can't beat 'em don't mean you should join 'em. So make lots of noise, kiss lots of boys, or kiss lots of girls if that's something you're into. When the straight and narrow gets a little too straight, roll up the joint or don't. Just follow your arrow wherever it points at. Follow your arrow wherever it points. Say what you think, love who you love, 'cause you just get so many trips around the sun. Yeah, you only live once. So make lots of noise, kiss lots of boys, or kiss lots of girls if that's what you're into. When the straight and narrow gets a little too straight, roll up the joint. I would. And follow your arrow wherever it points at. Follow your arrow wherever it points.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley.